tell you why. It's because the league is so tied up with trying to market themselves as a legitimate NHL style league, where it's like, okay, you're somewhere between we're a legit NHL league and we're a traveling circus on ice. And if they stop being on the fence and pick one side, preferably the other, like the traveling circus side, they could monetize that and grow the fans so much. The problem is the NHL is that skilled, crazy high level league. The AHL is, the East Coast League is, the SPHL is as well. Nobody's trying to market themselves as this traveling circus, and I think that's why they tried to hide the Ian White story as much as they could.
How we doing, Trav? What's going on? Dude, do you mind just giving yourself a brief introduction, let everybody know who you are?
Yes, so my name is Travis Ridgen. I'm number 33 for the Motor City Rockers. You've probably seen me on the right side bench opening the door for most of the games up until December this season. I also have a YouTube channel where I document my whole entire hockey career. I call it Life in the Fed. It's a vlog series and mixes cinematics, storytelling with the, as you know, the theatrics that are involved in the day-to-day minor pro hockey, and just in a nice tight 8 minute package that was every Sunday. But I ended up getting hip surgery about actually a month and 2 days ago. And yeah, so I'm in Vancouver now with my lovely girlfriend rehabbing my hip and looking forward to skating, hopefully sometime end of April if things go at the pace we're going. So that's a little bit about me.
Can you just give me like a brief rundown of your hockey history, starting from like when you were youth and when you found the game and kind of your passion throughout?
Yeah. Okay. So I started skating for the first time when I was 4 years old. I still remember to this day, my dad took me skating at this like old rink in Winnipeg. So I'm born and raised in Winnipeg, home of the Jets. And it's one of those rinks that just like reeks like propane. It's so old that you can smell the history like in the ceilings and the rafters. It's crazy. And he brought me like a chair like to like push around and skate with. And I remember just like kicking and screaming and crying and just like hating it. And like, I never want to do this again, Dad. And then eventually, as I was like complaining, go figure, foreshadowing of things to come. I started like skating, and then we never looked back since then. So I played hockey from 4 until I was like 9 as a player. Switched to being a goalie at around 10. Um, let's see, almost made a double A team when I was 12. Made the double A team when I was 13. Got cut from the double A team again when I was 14. Made the double A team again at 15. Finally, never really got an opportunity to play triple A. I was 16 years old. Like, I want to play triple A. I think I have what it takes in the city of Winnipeg. I told my parents I don't think that the area we live in is the greatest opportunity for me to be like making that team. So we literally used a fake address, like some address on our sign-up sheet that we didn't live at, didn't even like nothing. Made the team, made triple A hockey that year. And then less than 8 months later, I'm at like a WHL main camp with the Prince George Cougars, which is crazy. In like a 2 year span, went from like low level community club hockey to a main camp invite in the Western League. Ended up getting some bad bounces. Also wasn't at the level that I should have been at. Like playing wise, I wasn't playing at the level I was capable of. Ended up playing high school hockey. Next year, ended up getting a little bit of a sniff in junior A with the English River Miners in beautiful Ear Falls, town of 900 people, which have now moved to Red Lake. They were the English River Miners, now the Red Lake Miners, and I played 16 glorious minutes, 4 goals on 12 shots in those 16 minutes before getting yanked. And that was my junior A career. Following season, played junior B in Manitoba for the Lundar Falcons. That was fun, and then played again for the Lundar Falcons the next year. And then the following year after that, my last year junior, got traded for $500 cash to the Arbor Ice Dogs. Played there, ran a 920 save percentage. First time in my life I ever ran over a 900. Incredible. I got committed to go play college hockey at VIU. When I say committed to play, I mean more so, again, committed to open the door and actually not even do that, do stats. They didn't even trust me opening the door, foreshadowing again of things to come. So I was there for a year studying. Things didn't work out. Ended up getting a U Sport tryout with the U of M Bisons in Manitoba. That didn't work out. Tried getting a sniff down in Columbus in the Fed. That didn't work out. Ended up sitting around, nothing going on. I remember at one point around Christmas time that year, I drove 2 days from Winnipeg to VIU where I played college hockey. 2 day drive to try and ask my coach for forgiveness to have me back on the team. Didn't have anything to do with it. Sat out the rest of the season. Found an agent. COVID happened. I got a deal in Sweden. He told me I was nuts. I should be waiting for COVID to die off and then sign a deal because we'll get lots of offers. I told him I don't think COVID's going away. Let's sign this deal in Sweden. It's the only place that's open. Signed in Sweden. Go there. The whole world shut down. I'm playing hockey. I'm living my life, having the time of my life. It was awesome. things kind of go sideways, get dealt to a team on the opposite side of Sweden in Varberg on the west coast by Gothenburg, which is like the Vancouver of Sweden. COVID goes fucking nutty. They shut us all down, come home for a couple months. Next season, which was last year, go back to the same team in Sweden, get off to a good start. Bundle of knee injuries and a bunch of other stuff. Didn't play a game for 3 months, come back, go on a tear, finish the season 8-3-1, winning games left, right, and center. We're one win away from making the playoffs, or like the advancement playoffs. That was the season. Come back home, sign the Fed this year with the Motor City Rockers, the new expansion Motor City Rockers in the Fed Zeno. And yeah, it was one of 3 goalies there, and I opened the door for almost every single game. Never got a start. I did get 44 minutes of action though, 1-0, undefeated. Never lost a game in the Fed to date. And then got hip surgery. So that is my hockey career in, I think, about 8 minutes.
I love it. And not only does it speak to kind of the resiliency that you have to keep playing, like you could have given up when you didn't make the double A team and the triple A team and back and forth. And so much of the politics of youth hockey ruins it for guys. Like how many guys would have quit at that moment?
You know, I look at things very differently than a lot of people. Like a lot of people like to look at politics and nepotism and all this other kind of stuff, and it's just like if and this is just my belief. If you are as good as you believe you are, politics don't affect the cream of the crop. Politics only affects the middle guys. So if you're in the middle guy, yeah, maybe you should be playing there. But if you were better, it wouldn't affect you. Like Connor Bedard's not getting screwed over by politics. Connor McDavid's not. Sidney Crosby's not because they're. No, I'm not saying I'm ever going to be in that realm. But if you're better, it never affects you. So every step along the way, like when there was adversity, I always thought, yeah, should I pack it in? Maybe I could do something else. I thought about it, but like I never was like serious about it. It's just like, oh, it is an option. We'll keep going because I love hockey and I got nothing else going on. I love hockey. I love stopping pucks, and I don't know. This is just what I love doing in my life. So why not keep her going?
I get you. See, I was always the last one picked on all the teams. I was always that bottom guy, and it was never politics. It usually came down to did they want to have a third goalie or not? If there was a spot for me. So I'm right there with you. Not only do I open a lot of doors, I get a lot of like press box hat tricks, the healthy scratch. You know, nothing wrong with only playing one game out of the 3 or 4 in the weekend. I look at it as like a vacation sometimes. So,
That's true.
uh,
Very true.
can you kind of talk about transitioning from Europe to the Fed and speak on like the quality or like the trends that you notice between the 2 different leagues?
First off, I'll say Team Court. That was a new one. I remember getting absolutely rinsed in college for Court. Like they stuck me with so many fines, it wasn't even funny. And then I go over to Europe, and there is no court. There's no fines. Everybody's just like civil. It's like, is the coffee pot on? Yeah. Oh, okay, we're good. That's all that matters. The coffee's on. We Nothing else really matters. Sweden. Come back to the Fed, and it's like, my God, I didn't give a vet shampoo. My goodness, I wasn't fast enough to get the bus loaded up and queued up. I ate before anybody else because I was hungry and I'm a growing boy. For Christ's sake, they just nailed me to the cross on fines this year. So that was different. Um, but the play style and the travel schedule is different. I mean, like last year, like in Sweden, longest trip we ever had was like 3.5, 4 hours, and I think that was because like the bus driver was going a little slow. You know, we make a couple pit stops along the way, but like that was like our long road trip, and that was like we're going to leave at 2 p.m. and we'll get there around 5:36. Puck drop for 7:30 or 8 or whatever, and that was a long one. But when you go to this year, where it's like the bus leaves at midnight, we're going to get there to Watertown around 10:30, 11. We're going to hop on for morning skate, done. Lunch, hotel nap, back to the rink for the game. Like, oh, like well, one of the guys, Babs told me that our other starting goalie, Trevor Babb, and he told me this from a bus. He's like, dude, the Fed will age you 20 years in about 6 months. I promise you that. And I was like, my God, you're right. It's tough sometimes, but the travel schedule is a big, big, big change. I think the level of finesse is different. I think guys in Sweden, I thought there was some guys that had a lot of skill. I thought they're very, very, very patient with the puck as opposed to like in the Fed where guys will shoot at any time. They're not looking to be patient. They're not looking for a pretty play. They're like, let's throw everything at the net. We're not giving up on any opportunities, and we're going to be greasy about it. We go to the net and all that kind of stuff. Granted, I only played 44 minutes, so it's kind of tough to gauge a game plan off that or get a real feel for the pacing. And I think that was one of the big problems. Was like excuse me, I tailored my game towards a European style, and I think it would have taken about 3 to 5 games of action for me to start kind of feeling out, okay, this is what needs to be changed to kind of get a formula, because like the RVH timing, the integrations are different. Um, Stances are different, the reads are different, just the hockey IQ is a little bit different. I mean, there's an extra, I think, 20 feet each way in Europe compared to here, where it's shorter. So that was a big difference, and that'll be something that I got to address next year wherever I do go.
What do you think about the age of the Fed? How does it compare to where you played in Europe or in Sweden?
Very similar, shockingly. Like you have your guys, like a couple guys that are 32, 33, 35 even. And then you have a lot of guys, well, a couple of guys that are in that, 21, 23, pocket. And then a lot of guys like myself who are in that 23 to 30 pocket, which is like mostly the makeup. And very, very, very similar, very comparable. I know the guys in the Fed like to, shit on Sweden Division 2, Division 3, but I think there's a lot of similarities. The style of play is different, but a lot of similarities across the board.
The Fed is going to be adding some new teams for this upcoming season. I have seen multiple news articles about the cities. I think it's still maybe up in the air whether or not they have the final list of teams. But your thought on the Fed adding new teams next year?
I think it's fantastic. I think, I mean, one of the problems with the Fed is that you have so many teams turning over because so many teams are just focused on making money. And the problem with minor pro hockey and business in general is you can't expect to make a penny for 3 years. And when you try to monetize, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. Like grow the fan base. That's why so many teams fold. So now that we're gonna have, I think, 13, maybe 12, maybe 14 teams, whatever it is. It's a lot of teams, which is great. I think too, like the southern teams are amazing. Like the fans down there are so crazy, they're so passionate, they love this style of hockey. I think that's the place where the game is going to grow in the Fed the most. Baton Rouge, Louisiana. I haven't been
Yeah.
there obviously, but an incredible rink, incredible fan base. They're getting 8, 9,000 people for these exhibition games that don't actually mean anything, which is crazy. I'm getting messages from these people. Are you going to come to Baton Rouge? I don't know. The team's not even finalized. Like I'm looking forward to it. I love Louisiana style food. I love soul food. I love, crawfish. I love all that kind of stuff, grits. But that's going to be really, really good in Baton Rouge. I'd say Baton Rouge is probably, of the three teams, one I'm looking forward to the most. You have the team in Virginia, in Wydeville, Virginia, which is owned by the Emperor himself, Barry Suskin, who owns the Black Bears, Thunderbirds, Port Huron, and Mississippi Seawolves. So he's going to be owning half the league and a majority share. Um, I don't know much. All I know is that apparently he got a bunch more money, and so now he's got the second team. And then I heard New Jersey is going to be a third location, which kind of confused me because I thought like the South would be like prime time. Like you've had all the Southern teams have come in the last 4 years ish, maybe 5 years, whatever it is. So that would be the prime time place that I'd be growing the league. But I think nonetheless, there's, as you know, there's three teams. That's 6 to 9 new goalie spots depending on, and I think it's fantastic. It's great.
I think you're hinting at a campaign. Trav goes south. I think that would be a great video series. Baton Rouge has a really interesting fan base. We used to have a CHL hockey team, Central Hockey League team here in Kansas City before they were folded up into the ECHL. And Baton Rouge used to have some of the gnarliest fighters in the CHL, and it was one of the toughest places to play. I love hockey in the South. I'm actually a little bit more bullish on hockey in the West. I think hockey in the west of the Rockies, has way more like growth potential. It's just harder to get off the ground right now because you don't have all those teams to like have a rivalry right away. You'd almost have to put like four teams in and make a division yourself with short distances to make sense. And I don't know, if that's the place for the Fed or like its own league or the SPHL. But New Jersey makes sense because Danbury, I think, is so good and has such a loyal fan base. You want to have like maybe a good rival within 45 minutes of them. And I think adding somebody in the metropolitan area, whether it's New Jersey or New York, Philadelphia, or something, like give them an opportunity to have a short rivalry because I mean they're still packing the barn. I saw a reel or a post yesterday. They had a big win with a full barn, and they're having a lot of fun. And the locker room looks great, and you love to see franchises like in the Fed succeeding like that. So I think it's a good idea. Give them an opportunity to like have a close rival. With that being said, what do you think makes a good Fed team or a good Fed market?
Uh, like growing the actual team, or like the actual on ice product itself.
We can get meta about it, just like in general. Like I was just talking about Baton Rouge has something about it. You were just, yeah, alluding to like
Yeah.
Winnipeg, Manitoba, these cities that just have something about it. Like get meta about it. It doesn't have to be one specific thing. It could be something that you'd want to, yeah, a city that you'd want to play in or something.
Honestly, the first one that comes to mind, I think, is Shreveport, Louisiana. I think that's where a team needs to go next. I've played in I've skated in the arena where the Mudbugs used to play, and so apparently somebody told me it's the first big venue Elvis ever played in. There's like a picture of Elvis in there, and there's a saying that this, like when they say Elvis left the building or Elvis has left the building, like that was the building that he left.
Oh, cool.
It's got some crazy history in there, and like it reeks like mold in there. Like that place is old. Again, coming back to the whole like you smell the history in the arena. Um, I gotta be careful what I say here. I think that having a team in a place where there's not a lot going on, I think is critical. Like, let's be honest, like people aren't busting at the seams to go to Winston-Salem, Carolina, Columbus, Georgia. They're not, going to Biloxi, Mississippi, and they're losing their marbles to go there. Like places like, let's say, like a Detroit or like a New York is a tough market because there's so much to do. Like just for us in Motor City, it's like, okay, well, is the product good? Well, we're also competing against the Red Wings, the Tigers, the Pistons, the um, Lions, right? The college football, Ann Arbor is only like an hour away. You have the concerts, all the events. Like you have so much competition, and there's a reason why, in the 21st century, why there's been 13 pro teams in the Detroit area, and they've all folded, and four of which I played at the Big Boy Arena, same place where the Rockers play. So it's a really, really tough market. I think you have to have a market where the fans don't have a lot. You're trying to give them something to look forward to, and then on top of that, you have to indebt yourself to the community and grow the fan base, and with the expectation we will not make a penny for 3 years. And the second that deviates, that's when teams start folding. So I have lots of ideas for how to grow teams and how to make money for teams and how to keep teams afloat, but it doesn't seem like anybody really wants to listen to me. So there's a reason why I stop pucks and they're in charge of marketing decisions, right?
Hey, I have the exact same thoughts on this stuff, and in fact, I talked to a SPHL coach a couple years ago about this, and I even brought it up to an NHL strength and conditioning coach. I think that the future of sports is somewhat fanless, like removing that aspect of having an ownership group that just wants to sell tickets and hot dogs and popcorn to support an organization. I think there's like a way to do it where have cheap tickets or affordable tickets, maybe even free tickets. You have it at a community rink, that supports a program or a youth program that might not necessarily get the funding from other sources, but is maxed out in people. What do you think that there could ever be some sort of like roaming team? I know that the USHL, I think, has a team, the National Development Program, that plays out of like the National Development facility. I could be wrong, but do you think that there's like any room for like a virtual team in the Fed, a team that maybe doesn't have a home rink or a team that just travels around and plays other opponents?
I think no, just because of the financials involved with how tight the budget is. Like you need to cultivate a fan base, and if you don't have the fan base, you're never going to make money. Like there's no major TV deals. Like the games are for free on YouTube, for Christ's sake. Like nobody's making money off that. They get some good fans. Like I saw Carolina had like 500, 600 people in their live the other night against Watertown. Columbus is getting six, 700. It's crazy. There's a crazy amount of fans that are looking to watch this, but the problem is the only way a team makes money is if there are asses in the seats and there's being merch sold. Like I don't know how else a minor league team in the Fed makes money. Like if there's another way, please, let me know now so I can change my opinion. But I don't think that there is. And until that happens, there's no way to have a virtual team survive. I think also too, like not get too political with you, but like the economics and the politics of the world right now, like we're going through a shit ton of inflation. We're in a recession. Prices are going up. People's salaries are not. So you wonder why, for example, like for the NHL, you have a market as crazy as Winnipeg, where there's not even standing room. The first 5, 8 years of franchise, and now like one of the last game I went to, there's like 40%, maybe 30% of the seats are open. You got Ottawa, they can't get people in the building because prices are going up, people's incomes are not. People can't afford to come to the games. Like even like if you're charging like 15 US for a ticket, like do $7. Do $7 to $10. Any seat you want. Kids 12 and under coming for free. The kids come for free. The parents have to come because the kids can't come without the parents. You make money. Do cheap beers. Get the shittiest beer money can buy. Water it down a little bit more and do bottomless drafts for $15. All you can drink, $15. Maybe that's a terrible business model. It's going to be so
No,
watered down. Nobody's going to be making poor decisions. That is how you get people in the ring. Stuff like that. Like I shake
I
my head
agree.
at some of the marketing decisions that teams in the Fed do. Like it's like how have you not done more with what you have to work with? You have so much to work with. You're bursting at the seams with potential to make money, to grow a fan base, and just explode off the planet. And you literally piss it all away. It drives me nuts when I see this stuff. But again, I stop pucks. I'm not the
No, no,
marketing
no.
team.
Yeah, no, stop saying that because you are really wise and you have a lot of experience and you do pay attention to hockey and you know markets. And I think that there is a gap. I talked to, a couple other players about this that are in the mix in the SP and some other leagues. And it's like none of the, there's a huge disconnect between the ownership groups, management, and like the player culture. And it's cool to see what Joe Pace has obviously done. You just interviewed him. You love that kind of stuff. But these ideas that we're having about how do you keep a market and how do you grow a market, like I think not only are they cutting edge, but I think it really is insightful and the league really should pay attention. But to answer your question, how could you do it? You set it up like a 501c, like a charity, and you get large corporations and these big companies that have this money that they are discretionarily giving maybe to like a foundation or I worked in corporate events for a while and I know that some of these large companies write six-figure checks just to put their logo on a brochure for some sort of charity because they can write it off for tax purposes. So I always thought there was an opportunity to maybe like get some big companies to write off all this money as a charity towards you. Now, I don't know how the bylaws of these teams, you have to probably be set up as an LLC and whatever, but I always thought that there was like an interesting market for like, a charity team, but I digress. I think what you were saying about putting fans in seats and having cheap tickets, cheap beer, cheap soda, that's the hockey we grew up on. And that's what made us like huge fans of the sport and made us fall in love with the game. I can remember going to games in the 90s and it was the same thing. And that's where my love for hockey 25 years later comes from. And so much of minor sports is missing that now, I think, especially with iPad. Every kid has an iPad, you know.
Well, the definition of business is problem solving, right? Like you're problem solving in exchange for money, right? If you want to buy let's say an Apple laptop, you need to get work done. So you give me money, I help you get your job done better. You want entertainment, you give me $7, I will give you a great product on ice. This is business. And the guys that cut the checks again miss that you're not here to make money, you're here to solve somebody's problem. Their problem is entertainment. They need entertainment. You need to be entertaining and give them something that's worth their time. And if you don't, they'll never come back. And they're not going to tell you they're not going to come back. They just don't show up. You'll hear all these people say, "Oh, the product's great. The game's fantastic. I love the atmosphere. That's great." They keep coming back and telling you that. What about the thousand other people that came and never came back? They're not going to go out of their way to tell you they're not coming back because they just don't care. That's what people forget. And not to be Debbie Downer, but to touch on your one point, the Fed is a not for profit organization. Like the only thing tying it up to be a league is that there's a schedule on a website. Like outside of that, like it's a non for profit. And I just think that like there's such a missed opportunity. I mean, like I don't know, I'm getting myself in trouble for saying this, but like when majority shareholders in your team ask, hey, what do you think we're doing wrong? What do you think we could fix? Now, I'm not saying I know everything, but I'd like to think that I turned a junior B hockey career into a full-time job. I think I know a thing or two about how to turn things into a full-time, somewhat profiting organization. And so like giving ideas where like it's not even just my ideas, it's what people are telling me. I mean, like for Christ's sakes, I got more Instagram followers than the whole league put together. And I'm like, here's what the people are telling me. This is how to fix this issue. This is how to fix that issue. This is what people want to see. And it's like, well, we'll think about that. What do you mean you'll think about that? That's what the people are telling you. That's how you make money right there. But again, like I said, I stop pucks and open doors. I don't make marketing decisions. I know you don't want to hear it, but it's the reality of the situation.
Well, you also talk to hockey players on a podcast, and one of the players that you talked to recently was Ian White, correct?
Yes, sir.
And I just had a podcast with a friend of mine, and we were talking about how good it was for the Fed for Ian White to play in the Fed, and now he gets a call up to play at the next level, and he keeps moving on. Um, I don't know. We just want to. Can we riff on how cool that is for Ian White? And I know that you
Yeah,
spent some time with him, and just talk about what that's like.
yeah, I'd say he's a good personal friend of mine. And not a call up, signing a contract on the ECHL.
Yes,
Like I
yes.
know the Fed website wanted to make it look like it's a call up. It's not a call up. Like he's done for the season with Motor City and the Fed. He's signed a deal. He's in the East Coast for the rest of the season. Amazing dude, amazing man. Gets a bad reputation because TSN sandbagged him with their documentary on his drug addiction and whatnot a couple years ago. I didn't even see that till after we posted the podcast together because I knew a little bit of the story just from knowing people who know him. I know like my podcast co-host Dave Wheeler, he's friends with Whitey, and he mentioned some stuff about him and Dave's wife and Ian's ex-wife were good friends. So just knowing stuff like that, but just hearing about them going to see the TSN documentary that just like sandbagged him, and then he got his ex-wife leaving nasty comments in the comment section. It's like this is why he's had a very difficult time the past couple of years. But I'm happy I was able to help him share his story. I know he's not big into social media, and he told me he's like, oh, I didn't even know the podcast went up. I didn't even hear about that or whatnot. But he's a great guy, fellow Winnipegger, just outside of Winnipeg, where I was born and raised. He was as well in Steinbach. Um, Nothing but positive things to say about him. And I wish him nothing but the best. I talked to him maybe I don't know like 2 weeks ago, whatnot, maybe a week and a half ago, and yeah, he's an amazing man, amazing guy.
Yeah, we love to hear it. And Charles, who I was talking to, he didn't have, you know, any clue why this wasn't like a bigger story for the Fed. And I think you just shed some light onto maybe there's just like just a disconnect between the different styles of media
Well,
and the
I'll
different
tell you
leagues.
why.
And
I'll tell you why. It's because the league is so tied up with trying to market themselves as a legitimate NHL style league, where it's like, okay, you're somewhere between we're a legit NHL league and we're a traveling circus on ice. And if they stop being on the fence and pick one side, preferably the other, like the traveling circus side, they could monetize that and grow the fans so much. The problem is the NHL is that skilled, crazy, high level league. The AHL is, the East Coast League is, the SPHL is as well. Nobody's trying to market themselves as this traveling circus, and I think that's why they tried to hide the Ian White story as much as they could until I did the podcast for them. The podcast is doing crazy numbers. It's the most viewed episode of the podcast to date. It's got almost like 20,000 listens, which is crazy. Um, but yeah, I just wish that they would embrace that more because there's a man who needed some help, and but unfortunately the world doesn't care about you. Only you care about yourself. So
yeah, and that's crazy. I actually didn't know the backstory. I'm gonna have to check that out and read into all that. I'm such like a players guy that I just knew this whole story of him being the NHL player in the Fed and playing in the Fed myself. You hear stories about like the every time an NHL player signs, everybody hears about it and talks about it. So that was kind of why I liked the story and thought it was so cool to see that happen. Have you had any chance to play with the Sense VR arena, any virtual reality like hockey training tools?
not yet. They actually they're supposed to be sending me a demo kit sometime soon. They actually a guy just emailed me about a half hour ago about that, but I don't know. I see the use in sensory in the VR training. If you have access to ice, there's no need for it. With me getting hip surgery and not being able to skate for like 2.5 more months, I see all the use in it. Like it's great. I can just set it up in my living room and get my reps in when I physically can't do them. So I see some use in it, but outside of that, I don't know about that.
Yeah. What do you think like the state of goalie development today is, especially since we've seen the rise of Instagram goalie development and all these Instagram coaches?
It's terrible, dude. It's terrible. You get these Instagram goalie coaches and these internet coaches that are ruining goaltending. Goaltending is being made to look cool. That there's some magic trick, this red pill. You'll take it and you'll lose 30 pounds in a week, like that kind of bullshit. When in reality, the simple, boring stuff that will never get you any clicks on Instagram is what works. Actually, funny enough, one of the I posted a clip with my goalie coach Pascal Vaughn in September about him saying, if you posted what actually got you good at goaltending, nobody would listen because it's boring, but it works. And I
Right.
posted that clip, and it got no views. Nobody cared about it because that's not what people want to see. That people want to see you do, as you know, a reverse integration. They want to see you jump up and down, two heel clicks, spin around, and do a sick glove save windmill style. That's not goaltending. That's not realistic. That's not reality. It's not functional.
I agree, and it's I so much of it comes down to now that you're able to record every single practice, every single drill, some of the stuff that you would only do with high level athletes that were just getting stale with their workouts maybe mid season, people are building like entire routines around. And I've been lucky. I've had an opportunity to be around Coast League goalies, and the stuff that they do in practice is completely different than anything that you're seeing on the internet. And it's because maybe their goalie development coaches are in the actual NHL pipeline and they're not on NHL or they're not on Instagram posting what they're doing, and they don't have these guys or clips of these guys doing their drills with them on the ice. And so nobody talks about them and nobody talks about those things. And that's funny that you make a video about that and then it gets no views. Of course it wouldn't get any views.
You know, it's crazy you mentioned that. We actually, when I had Pascal on my podcast, we talked about the goalie coaching world kind of being broken. We actually mentioned exactly that, that the goalie coaches that are good are not on Instagram. They're not posting drills. They're not making TikToks. They're goalie coaching. They're
Right.
busy. They have things to do. The guys that are not cream of the crop are doing exactly that. And that's, I tell Pascal all the time, I'm like, you're such an amazing goalie coach and such an amazing mentor. There's an opportunity on Instagram to, post all this stuff or on TikTok or whatever, but he's busy goalie coaching, so he doesn't have time. I've tried to help him, but he's just so busy sometimes. And again, it holds true to what we just said, that the good goalie coaches aren't doing that. They're not doing social media clips and running a page with 20,000 followers. They're coaching goalies.
Right. Well, we're coming up on the 30-minute mark here, so I appreciate all the time that you've given today. It's been fun chatting with you. It's always nice, like, and refreshing to talk to other guys in the Fed about, ways that I they think and we think that the league could be better, because I'm really bullish on it. I think it's one of the best leagues, and as a 34-year-old hockey player, it's like one of the last outlets for me to competitively play still at a high level, and it fills a gap for so many people, just the same way like maybe the ACHA does for college hockey. And I think it gets lost nowadays when everything's affiliated and it's all about, development and young guys and tall guys and all these other things. When it really comes down to just like, can you play hockey? Do you like playing hockey? Can you put up with 8-hour road trips? Do you like being in a locker room full of smelly guys with bad manners and horrible music taste? Like, that are chirping you, that act like they don't like you. And I think it takes
Bingo.
like, it takes a certain type of market to be able to, you know, give an opportunity for those players to play. And that's why I like the Fed. And I appreciate you kind of chatting with me today about the Fed. Where can people reach you, follow you, get a hold of you?
You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok at Trav4oilers, and you can find me on my podcast, Sling the Biscuit, which is on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, Google Podcast, and Instagram as well at the Sling the Biscuit podcast page.
Awesome, man. Thanks for chatting today.